Hello, this is Reno, Dino, and Cecilia Rose, and we are coming to you with not exactly a Mekupa, but in honor of the Super Mario Brothers movie, a Koopa.
I do not know what that is.
It's okay. Mea Koopa. My fault, my bad. But that's not what we're doing.
That did not help.
We're coming to you because we decided to call an audible and move one of our later podcasts up earlier because June is Pride Month, and we had an episode that Cecilia brought us until I met my husband about the first Japanese gay marriage, and we thought, hey, that should come out in June. So
Kick the month off right.
Yeah, so we've done some finagling and some movings. All that means is that at the end of the episode, where we normally announce what's coming next, there was some misinformation there. I have deleted it. Now, we are going to tell you what you're actually going to be reading, and it's Moss Volume 1. We talked about it on the podcast 2 weeks ago. I'm hoping you looked at the show notes and found out that that's where all this confusion began. And also just wanted to quickly remind you again about Carolina Con on June 3rd. If you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, come swing by our table. There'll be a link in the show notes about how to get your tickets. It would be awesome to see you. We're going to have a drawing for some trade paperbacks and graphic novels that we both have and have not yet covered on the show. And some other fun things.
Yep, we got some pretty stickers.
Stickers, cards. You can listen to some of our highlights from our first 25 episodes. Anyway, thank you for listening, and remember, Moss Volume 1 in 2 weeks.
Bring your tissues.
Bring some tissues.
You will need tissues and a burning hatred of Nazis.
If you don't bring that to every episode of Comic Dissection, this might not be the comic podcast for you.
Yeah. Welcome to Comic Dissection, the comic book club podcast where we examine comics through an intersectional and leftist lens. A little late now for the sticky note, ain't it?
And we try not to say and like at a rate of 128. That's all the notes on my sticky note.
Well, I am gonna disappoint because there's probably gonna be a lot of uhs and likes because we all have those fun little synchronicities.
Here's the thing. I'll tell you. This a little how the sausage is made moment. But when I go through the episodes, when I'm sound editing, and I'm taking out uhs and likes, I find out if you take out all of them, it sounds fucking weird. So, and sometimes you can't because you'll be in the middle of like that. You'll really be going on. Yeah, you'll really be going on something. You'll be like, and like you can't squeeze in there and take them out where necessary. But I find if you take them all out, or as many as you can, sometimes it doesn't sound correct. So,
well, this is all, off the cuff. Like, we make notes and stuff, but we're still just, talking together for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, riffing. While we're going through it together. So, there are pauses and ways that people collect their sentences, and if you don't like us and likes, you're in the wrong place.
Some allowances must be made.
Yes, they must.
We're not in debate class, damn it. What are we in? As in, what are we doing?
Today, we are doing Until I Meet My Husband. It is a true story about Ryousuke Nanasaki. It's based off a memoir that he wrote. So there is actually a book version. But
it's a collection of essays.
Yeah, well,
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a memoir, so I'm imagining it's sort of like
a collection of memoirs.
It's sort of a cross between probably essays and a diary. That's what I usually think of memoirs as,
Fair enough. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the last memoir I've read.
I've read a few.
If I've read
But it's been a hot minute. It has been a hot minute.
Read the Diary of Anne Frank. Is that a memoir?
I guess kind of.
Sort of.
Sort of.
That might be the only one. I've really not read a lot of diaries or memoirs. I've read diaries, but they were ones that I wasn't supposed to read because, that's why they put the little locks on them, you see. But as a rule, I don't.
Well, there's a I want to call it a genre, but that's probably not correct, of books geared toward teenage girls, which I think are like historical fiction, and I forget what exactly they're called, but I read them in like middle school that have like the diary kind of feel to them, so I've read quite a few things like that, but as far as what a memoir actually is, I think it's more of like a diary and like history combined type of thing. Right. And at least the way this book reads, it feels sort of like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But I also, because this episode should come out during Pride Month in America.
If all is as planned.
Yes, if all goes as planned.
If not, I'll just push it up.
Prior to actually getting into the manga, I actually did a bunch of background research about the history of LGBTQI plus peoples in Japan,
which I am super excited to hear about because this is not something I'm very knowledgeable about. Even while I was there, it was not something I encountered very much.
All right, so I got most of my information from our website called outadventure.com and Wikipedia, and outadventure.com had a thing that said, in and out of battle, the samurai loved a good sword fight, and it just struck me as fucking hilarious. So that is the first thing I wrote down, and the wonderful people of Out Adventure, you guys deserve all of the credit in the world for that line.
Hashtag maybe all samurais? I don't know. There's a very proud tradition of during war times. When you're in the foxhole, if you know what I mean.
Well, actually, it's the very...
Or whatever the samurai equivalent
It's the very sad tradition of pederasty in history. Because the thing with the samurai, just to, I guess, skip around in my notes a little bit, is that there is an expectation of relationships between older men and younger boys. Yes. Because that's how you learn to trade.
Yeah, like a mentorship type.
Yes. And you kind of paid with your body, basically. And it's an ancient Greek thing. It's an ancient Japanese thing.
Roman.
It's something, Roman. It's just something...
Everybody got into the act. Why? Because it's fucking human nature.
Well, I kind of wish it were more consenting adults with consenting adults. But
Well, yeah, I don't mean it's human nature between children and adults. I mean, like...
Same-sex
relationships are natural.
Yeah.
Not same-sex relationships between 30-year-old men and 7-year-old boys are natural. No. That is not where I was going.
But in Japan, between Shintoism and Buddhism, the attitudes around same-sex relationships was much more relaxed prior to the times of colonialism. Shintoism, who Sailor Mars was a Shinto priestess. I was like that little bit of... Shintoism has an underlying belief that all people are good, which I think is really sweet. And so same-sex relationships were just considered like a natural reflection of that. Like it is a natural thing. Sex is also considered more about pleasure than procreation. Therefore, there wasn't really as much of a need for a label there's a lot when you talk about queerness in historical context, there's a lot of understanding that the way that we define sexual orientations in today's terms weren't really things that existed before today's terms. Sorry about that. So they didn't really have like homosexual or like gay or lesbian or anything, but there were still people in same-sex relationships. But there was also some misogyny to consider at the time because it was actually considered better for men to have sex with men than to mess with duplicitous and evil women. Yeah.
Not to be devil's advocate, but if the women that you're messing around with are evil, you might be better off with
women were just considered evil.
I know, I'm kidding. Yeah. Obviously, they weren't just saying...
this one
the
woman.
evil women. They were saying because all women are evil. Yeah.
It is an important distinction.
You know what's weird? And this is this is probably going to be me showing my ignorance. But it's odd how so many societies this belief comes into being from people who were raised by their mothers. Like this idea of, spending 18 years with a woman who takes care of you and is kind to you. And this is, of course, in your typical...
In a healthy family.
Your typical nuclear family. This woman takes care of you, and then at some point you grow up and you decide that all women except your mother are evil, or all women including your mother are evil. Like, I don't know. It's like the opposite of an Oedipus complex. Like, instead of wanting to kill your father and sleep with your mother, you want to sleep with your father and kill your mother because women. Am I right? Isn't that strange?
I don't know how much of that is just regular old sexism coming into play, because women are typically, in most cultures, considered more likely to be the caregivers. And there's a habit of not being able to forgive your parents for all the ways that they failed you. And unfairly, that is more often put on the mother because she is, quote unquote, supposed to be the one that takes care of you. Yeah. So some of it's probably just some good old fashioned sexism, and
and since we're in samurai times, we literally mean old fashioned.
Oh, we do literally mean old fashioned. All right, now I'm gonna mispronounce some Japanese words because I'm a filthy American, and
do.
During the Tokugawa period, some of the Shinto gods, especially Hachiman, Moshin, Shinmi, and Tenjin,
of which are personas that you can have in the Persona games.
Look at that. Yeah. Came to be seen as guardian deities of Nanshuko, which is a male-male love. Like in ancient Greece, where older men took youthful male lovers, Japan's Nanshuko tradition also brought forth the same mentor and sexual relations between older monks and younger fellows coming of age. The arrangement was committed but not monogamous. It's basically a rite of passage that was assumed eventually you'd outgrow and you'd marry a woman and have children and all that very nuclear jazz.
Yeah, and all that jazz.
Jazz hands. All right. There was even a third gender called Wakashu, which had distinctive kimonos, had their own hairstyles. They had like a shaved crown and long back for their hair.
Mullet. They had a mullet.
Yeah, almost. The beauty of their male youth was compared to cherry blossoms with an elusive allure distinct from women or mature men. So
kind of like the like a quote unquote asexual aesthetic. Kind of, I'm trying to think of the proper words, but
I'd almost call it like a twink if you want to be
twink. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You want to compare it to something nowadays?
That's probably the best word, at least in languages that we currently have. Yes.
Once Wakashu comes of age, they would transition to more masculine fashion and grooming. So the Meiji Restoration began in 1868, and it brought an end to Japan's military government. Japan made a choice to lean more towards Western ways and social norms, and while the nation industrialized fast, it became quite Puritan. Japan made sodomy illegal from 1872 to 1882. Japan still has not legalized same-sex marriage, but in 2021, a district court ruled the ban unconstitutional. A poll from 2019 says that a majority, 68%, of Japanese people support same-sex marriage. A law allowing transgender individuals to receive or to change their legal gender identity post-sex reassignment surgery and sterilization was passed in 2003. Discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity was banned in some cities, including Tokyo. However, a 2020 survey found that over 10,000 LGBT people in Japan found that 38% had been harassed or assaulted. So one area where Japan does excel is gender expression. It's very colorful and fluid. There's an easy comfort with how people express their masculine and feminine spirit through hair, fashion, and makeup. Contemporary gay culture is also growing. People still live in the closet, given the strong focus on family units. Homophobia is also prevalent in some of those same family units. Still, pride parades are becoming more prevalent, and an international influence is having a positive impact. Still, pride parades are more prevalent, with the Tokyo Rainbow Pride happening since 1994. It had an online version in 2020 because of COVID.
Yeah.
And actually, it's happening after this podcast will come out in June. So it would have already happened, but in April, Japan is having their Pride Parade this year.
That's interesting, because that's also when a lot of the cherry blossom festivals, the Sakura festivals, happen.
That's cool.
So, yeah. It's happening during the time when people are out and about and enjoying the springtime.
Aww.
Yeah.
Japan also has the highest density of gay bars in the world.
That is not... If you had asked me just off the top of the cuff who had the highest density of gay bars, man, I would...
Well, part of it I think is
Does it
because...
just go hand in hand with karaoke? Is karaoke gay?
Karaoke might be gay.
Oh my God.
I think some of it's just because...
I love it.
all of the little tiny places, like, it can be a bar with, like, 2 or 3 seats. And it's, a gay bar.
There's a show on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's called, like, Night Cafe, it's about in Tokyo, a little 24-hour eatery that this guy works at. And it's basically little 30-minute shows, and every episode concentrates on a different little story. But there's a gay man that runs a gay bar that is a reoccurring character in the club that shows up there. And there's a really good episode where he falls in love with a guy who's like a former member of the Yakuza, and that guy is not a homosexual, and he's also was raised in the Yakuza, so like, he's very... There's a lot of animosity between them. But then at the end, he gets shot, and the gay guy shows up at his bedside, and, like,
Aww.
They end up being friends, and it's... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting way off subject, but that show is Midnight Cafe, and you should watch it on Netflix. It's great. And it also gives you a very interesting viewpoint of gay culture in Japan, in Tokyo specifically, because that character is in almost every episode, and there are... more than a few episodes about LGBT issues.
Midnight Cafe. I'll put that on the list.
Yeah.
All right. Good news is homosexuality is not illegal. There's not actively any laws criminalizing it. 2 consenting adults can do as they please, but they cannot be married in like religious ceremonies, and they can't adopt. So that's totally cool and good and fine.
Yeah.
Yep, I mean that in all of the ways that Robert Evans means it when bad things happen on Behind the Bastards.
Yes.
Totally cool and good and fine.
Great.
We love inequality.
Yeah, well, we love it in other countries because it gives us a chance to feel better about our country.
Well, ironically, Japan is more transgender friendly than America is.
Well, I was wondering, you said, what was the, I don't remember the percentage, but you said... It sounded like almost 70% are in favor of gay marriage. And I would put that up against our numbers here in the U.S. Like, maybe even a little higher. Like, I haven't read the last poll.
I'm not sure.
Of course, those fucking polls, depending on who you ask and what time of day. And,
right? Who still answers their fucking cell phone.
Right. You can get an answer of no one supports gay marriage to 100% support gay. So always take polls with a grain of salt. But I bet you 70% might be the numbers we're running here in the States as well.
It might be.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at the Trump, who voted for Trump numbers. And
ouch.
Yeah. And, Japan, I don't think we can look to them
and like raise our heads up high on our superior.
I'm not.
Yeah, we gotta
No.
step off our high horse if we're trying to. Just thank God we got freedom. That's all I'm trying to say. America, freedom, fuck yeah.
Yay. Freedom to be a straight white man. Anyways, so a little bit of background also on Ryousuke Nanasaki. He is an LGBT advocate and activist whose essays made a huge impact in Japan. His desire and goal is to create a world where everyone has the option of getting married. He was born in Hokkaido in
Hokkaido.
There you go. In 1987, after graduating from high school, he moved to Tokyo, and then in September of 2015, he launched the Edagawaya LGBT community, a group, along with his husband, whom he had signed a partnership certificate with prior. In April of 2016, he founded a wedding planning company called Juras LGBT Wedding. Despite the challenges, he continues to work hard every day, making sure LGBT people get the wedding of their dreams and the acknowledgement that they deserve. In 2016, he and his husband were officially recognized by the sect at help me with that word.
Tsugi Hanawanji Temple.
Becoming the first religiously recognized same-sex wedding in Japan's history. And now we can start on the actual book.
Oh, yes. There's a book based on Cecilia's essay. Thank you for that, though. That was extremely enlightening, and I think it is all very important background for what we're getting ready to read. And just so you know, Ryo actually wrote this. A guy named Yoshi Tezuki was the artist. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, together, they put together this very, very... Once again, you've picked something with lovely art. Like,
I am an art snob. I have expressed this before.
and it shows right here.
It really, it is a fucking beautiful book. It really, really is. And, it mentions at the very end that Yoshi Tezuki is a BL artist. And I love BL. And you can tell with the way the characters are drawn that there is the person who wrote this definitely, or the person who drew this, definitely knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So,
we may be calling them, Ryo and Yoshi from now on. But,
Yoshi.
Yeah, Yoshi.
Alright. So, the book starts, and I'm actually really happy that it starts showing, because this gets really fucking sad in a lot of places, so I'm really happy that it starts showing that he ends up happy.
Give you the happy ending first, and then show the long road to how we got there.
Yeah, after the history I looked up, I really needed to start with the happy, because it was really it's always fucking depressing to read about the state of affairs of LGBTQ plus peoples in the world.
Just not being able to be who... There's nothing sadder in this world than someone not being allowed to be who they are.
It's fucking horrible, and it makes me angry.
It's the thing we spend every day in every after-school TV show, every day in kindergarten through, fourth grade when they stop telling you this. People are like, be yourself, be who you are. People are going to love you for you. And this entire time, people with these feelings are like, well, they're not talking to me.
Yeah.
And imagine going through your life like that. Ugh.
It's horrible. And it was very sad. So to come to the first page of this and to see happy husbands holding hands and the pretty, the background with the pretty, flowers falling around them.
We open on a Buddhist partnership declaration ceremony, and I'm like, if that's not the most Japanese adjective-ridden description of an event,
it's just
super fun time, excitement, marriage thing. Now with extra flavor.
It's drawn really pretty, and
they also talk about, and I thought this was really interesting because I'm getting back into learning kanji because, fingers crossed I'll be going back to Japan this summer. And the kanji for marriage is made up of the kanji for man and woman smushed together to make a new kanji. And they were talking about, Ryu was talking about here how he used the word for man and put them together to make a slightly new kanji for marriage. And I was like, that seems necessary. Good job.
So he talks about on page 6, he's talking about how he doubts the old him could have ever imagined such a happy and blissful future. He hated being gay when he was younger. He believed that it was some sort of punishment. And
that is a reoccurring theme we will come back to many times, where
Yep.
he feels as if this was a curse, as is literally speaking, God made a mistake when
Yep.
he made me. Whew.
Yep. It, like I said, it gets very sad in some places. I actually let one of the ladies at work, she started reading it, and she got to, like, the page where they do the forced haircut, and she's like, I can't do this. You're going to have to take this back.
Yeah.
I can't read this. It's making me mad, and
Even
I
with
cry.
the happy ending, yeah. Yeah, there's some rough parts here.
All right. So we start on, when we get to him reflecting on his past. He's building a snowman with the girls.
It's young, probably a kindergartner at this
Yeah,
point.
he's so tiny.
Yeah.
And the boys start picking on him for
Playing
hanging
with
out
the
with
girls.
the chicks
Yeah.
and seeming girly.
But he's very concerned with the aesthetic of the snowman. He's picking out the perfect rocks to make the little eyes.
He wants it to be pretty.
Yeah. And that's another reoccurring theme. Is he's very he really enjoys things that are pretty.
Well, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and dainty.
And who doesn't?
Yeah.
But to him, he's like, I thought I was pretty normal. That what they said didn't matter. To me, I was a normal boy. Until that day, at least. And then they start talking about, this pissed me off, because...
This, yeah.
Who,
for all the obvious reasons.
Who the fuck drags a kid who's being picked on to the front of the classroom to talk about whether or not they are a girly boy?
So, I'm going to explain a little bit. Now, I'm no Japan expert, but I do know that bullying in Japan is taken extremely serious. And it sort of, in some ways, has had that opposite effect, kind of like Prohibition did on alcohol. And teachers don't really seem to, just like here in the States, they don't really seem to know the proper ways to handle it. And a common idea is, let's bring the kid that's being picked on to the front of the class and explain to the class why picking on said kid is not a good idea. Which, of course, is just publicly shaming that child, and it's going to make the bullying 1,000 times worse.
If there was one kid in this class who was unaware of the girly boy insult that was being hurled at Ryu's way, they're not unaware now.
No.
It made me so angry.
I mean, she might as well have been like
neon sign,
or taken like a toy car and like shoved it into his chest and be like, see, he's playing with cars. He's a boy. He's a tough boy.
Why would... Yeah, he reflects on it. If I were really a normal boy, then these discussions wouldn't even be happening.
Yes, it does not fly over a child's consciousness that he is being singled out by the teacher to tell the class he is normal. But all the other kids who are viewed as normal do not have to be taken to the front end of the class and be explained that they are normal.
Yeah.
So the lie, it breaks the trust with the teacher.
Yeah.
It brings more shame and abuse from the other students. And it is like, I don't know if it still is, but it was a common, like, Japanese teachers are told, hey, if you see a kid being bullied, take him to the front of the class and tell all the kids not to bully him anymore. And I hope to God that's no longer the way it's done.
As opposed to, like, finding the ringleader and having a quiet discussion with them about
or bully them. Beat them up. Yeah.
Like,
you're a teacher. They're a little kid. You can handle them.
You can take a 5-year-old.
You can take a 5-year-old kid. This podcast does not support teachers beating up students.
No, not at all.
Not even bully students. Yeah.
But he decides after this encounter to try to act more like the other boys, to try to hold himself right, control his posture and the way he walks. But he still really likes magical girl things and pretty, shiny. And he wanted for Christmas one year, he wanted a magic girl wand.
As did his little sister.
And he doesn't want to tell his mother, though, because he doesn't want to make her upset.
Spoiler, one of them is going to get their wish granted.
Yes. So he prays to Santa that he can have a magical girl wand.
Japan's understanding of Christmas is so weird. just a quick aside.
So this page, on page 15, it made me pause because I do have 2 small children, and the fact that he wanted a thing that he felt like he couldn't ask his parents for without upsetting his mother. I really, really hope that my kids never feel like that. It was very sad to read. And instead of a magical shiny wand, he gets a transistor radio that he opens under the table because he was really hoping.
Well, and also he opens it under the table because he doesn't want his parents to see his reaction if he doesn't like it. Because even now, this little child is so concerned about hurting the feelings of his parents and sister. Like, he doesn't want to ruin Christmas for the rest of the family. So he decides, I'm going to hide myself, which, boy, that's not foreshadowing. I'm going to hide myself and my real emotions under this table so people can't see. And then I will put on my public face, which we'll talk about. We can talk about right now. Japanese people talk about a public face and a private face. Omote is the public face, and wa is the private face. And if you show someone your private face, it's because you guys are people are really, really close. So usually only your family and your closest friends see your private face, and the public face, the omote that you show to the world, is the one that he shows to his parents. So even with his parents, he can't show who he really is. Even at, 8, 10, whatever age this is.
So tiny.
Yeah, at this little tiny age. There's such a good shot. This is my favorite panel alert. On page 17, there's a scene of him under the table, and the shadow of the table is on him, and he's just looking out with these little doe-in-the-headlights eyes, holding the radio, and you can see the disappointment.
Yeah.
Again, Yoshi did amazing work with facial expressions here. You can see his disappointment because he's looking over at his sister, who got the wand that he wanted, which is, that's a Sailor Moon knockoff wand if I've ever seen one.
It certainly is. Definitely.
Yeah.
No, he wanted something cute, but he comes out of underneath the table with a big smile on his face, pretending
what I wanted.
That the radio was just what he wanted.
Yeah.
On page 18, we get some good old-fashioned misogyny, where they're cutting his hair forcefully because his hair's too long and only girls have long hair. And I know we just said we don't support hitting children, but I personally would like to fight these kids.
Yeah, they basically gang up on him in the bathroom with a pair of scissors and start cutting his hair. And they end up cutting his face because I assume, you can see a bandage on the next page, I assume he struggles against this because who wouldn't struggle against an involuntary haircut?
Right.
It's one of the things they do when you go to prison. They cut your hair. It's a forced conformity. It's to show that you no longer
military too.
Yeah, military as well. It's to show you no longer have body autonomy.
Yep.
That's being taken from you. And I wrote that this is it's called the Japanese conformity clause. The idea that we as a nation have a way that things are done and you will not deviate. And I feel like members of the LGBT community have it rougher in a lot of ways at younger ages because you have to wear the school uniform. You have to have your hair just a certain way. And the school uniform isn't just how you wear it. It's got to be tucked in a certain way. There's a certain day that you go from your summer to your winter wear. It is a regimented dress society.
Yeah.
And you do not have control over it. And so even such thing as having your hair a little too long. And this isn't teachers. This is his fellow students enforcing the norm here. Yeah.
It was fucking heartbreaking to read. But then he finally gets a friend because there's a kid who transfers who decides to befriend him. His name is Tasaka.
Yeah, Tasaka.
And Tasaka is, I think, one of the first times he realizes that he's actually attracted to boys. There's a lot of...
They're changing in the gym, after gym.
Yep. There's a lot of...
the kind of discussion you have when you're going when you're
Through
changing
puberty.
in the gym and you're going through puberty. Like, hey, do you have hair yet? No. Do you have hair yet? No.
I actually wrote down here, not yet, we're not there yet, but like on page 26, so they're talking in the bathroom though,
Mm-hmm.
and Ryu doesn't have any hair yet. And the boy asks him why everyone calls him Girly Boy and asks if he wants to be a girl. And he didn't want to tell him because he's ashamed that he's a guy that gets picked on like that.
Excuse me. I also think this is the first time when we get this manga has a way of doing a darkened gray to show what is either something happening in his head. Usually it's a flashback. Sometimes it'll be a worry about how a transaction's going to go.
Yeah.
But they kind of shade the panels.
Yeah.
So you know that this is not happening right now.
Yeah. The teacher tells him that he strikes him as quite feminine, and if he stays this way, life will be rough for him, which is unfortunately true.
Yeah.
So he explains that he thinks that the new kid thinks that he probably gets called Girly Boy because he gets excited about things very often, and he's like,
he shows emotion, you know, like a girl.
Like a girl, you have feelings and you don't hide them well enough.
Lame ass.
So, and he's trying to comfort him, and he says, I'm sure you'll grow some hair in your pits soon enough, but if you don't, then maybe you really are half girl. And I really want to know who is teaching these children about how bodies develop, because girls also get hair, you dumb fuck. I do not understand. Like,
that might be our little quote for the beginning of the episode. Girls also get hair, you dumb fuck.
I'm just saying.
He is a child. Like...
And yes, clearly Japan's fucking sex ed is also failing them.
Just as bad as ours. So... See, America, we are as good as Japan on some things.
I read that and I'm like, that's not how that works.
Yeah. No, yeah. But it's also very funny, the half joking, like, oh, you'll get hair. And hey, if not, maybe you are half girl, half guy. Like, could be, don't know.
Yeah.
It's true, he does not know.
He does not know. So... if I had been he reflects that if he'd been a girl, maybe his first crush would have fallen in love with him too. And it, like, there's so much unrequited love, and every time this boy falls for a straight boy, my heart hurts for him. Like, but he's like, but I bet he would hate me still because I'm still half guy. So
I'm sorry, but quick aside, there's a punk rock song, and I'm blanking on the band. But the lyrics of the song are, I love lesbians more than anything, so why don't lesbians love me? And that's what I thought of when you said every time he falls in love with a straight man. I'm like, it happens the other way too. Occasionally I fall in love with a lesbian. Cecilia, you don't understand. Aww. It's very sad.
Anyways.
I can't believe I'm being... just dismissed like this.
So his first friend gets a girlfriend, and he doesn't know how to react, but he's not happy about it.
No. But he does send the he's sitting there with the phone because he gets this news via text, and he does end up sending the quote unquote right text back. The, hey man, that's great. Can't wait to meet her.
Yeah.
Super happy for you guys. Hope you never break up and then decide you're gay. That is my fondest hope. That you are straight forever.
This works out well for you, and I get invited to the wedding. He spent every day wishing they'd break up.
Yeah.
And it was very...
Yeah, the last line of chapter 1, where he says, no longer know who or what I was. I wrote that, for me, again, as a straight white male, this seems to be why representation is one of the reasons representation is so important. Mm-hmm. Like, he had no model. He had no models. Like, he didn't see anything on TV that looked like him. He didn't see no anime or manga. Well, there probably it was out there, but he wasn't allowed to read it.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, am I the only person like this in the entire world? And as much as we bitch about the internet, I think one of the good things that it has done, and also bad things, now that I think about it, is it's taught everyone that whatever beliefs you have and however you feel, you're not alone in this world. The other person may be in Brazil or on the Ivory Coast in Africa, but there is someone out there who is as passionate about fucking this stupid cartoon that came out in the 70s, or it really has a thing for thumbs, or like whatever your whether it's a fetish, a sexual orientation, a religious view, a political view, a fandom. There's a world out there for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, it brought us the Proud Boys, but it also brought like a place where members of the LGBT community can find people like them when they're in a small town in Midwestern in Midwest Montana, where they are the only person like them, or at least that admits that they're like them in the entire city. So I don't know, like it broke my heart when he was like, I don't know what I am. Yeah. Like, I'm like, dude, I just watch this. Well, read this book. Watch this movie. Like, you're not alone in this.
There's something, and it's something that he reflects on a lot. Actually, is how isolated he is in his feelings, because he has, and unfortunately, he has a really hard time coming to terms with his homosexuality. And I actually think this book does a really good job expressing that in the varied ways that it happens.
Yeah,
but there is something to be said for the way that isolationism fucks with your head. Anytime you feel like you're going through something that no one else can relate to, and you're going through it all alone, it makes that problem that much harder. Mm-hmm. Because if you have a problem and you can't talk to anyone about it, and you still have to deal with it, it makes that problem seem insurmountable. Because a lot of what people need is communities. It's one of the reasons why Pride and all of these little places that exist now are so important, and why they deserve to be protected. Yes,
why they are... Like, the example that, is currently happening here with the transgender story hour library. Like, Drag queen story, I'm sorry. Drag queen story hour. That's not about rubbing it in children's faces. It's not about trying to make children into different sexualities than, whatever they're feeling. It's about showing them, hey, this is something that's out in the world. And if you feel this way, you're not alone. And if you don't feel like this way, the people that are this way are not threatening to you. Mm-hmm. In fact, here's a great story about green eggs and ham, or, the little engine that could, or whatever they decide to read at this library session. And I don't know, that's something that I don't know how you can... And I guess it's willful ignorance, because I don't think that you could explain it in such a way where a conservative who is against that would be like, oh... Okay, yeah, let them do the library thing. Shit, I wasn't even thinking.
Well, it's one of those things that kills me, in all honesty, because there's all this talk about protecting the children.
Yes.
They rap, which is it's the same satanic panic bullshit from the 80s with a nice new bow on it.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing that kills me is there are trans children. They are born that way. You talk bullshit about wanting to protect the kids. Right up until that kid needs medical care that you don't agree with. And right up until that kid isn't straight and fitting into this
is a bit of a misrepresentation. We want to protect the children. The cis white children, specifically. I could see how you would be confused. Not all the children. Also, poor children. I don't care about poor children, LGBT community children, like non-white children. There is a special type of child.
Yeah.
Swedish children. Blue eye, blonde hair. You know the kids I'm talking about. The ones that look like the Children of the Damned from that old 1920s movie. Yeah, those are the ones we have to protect because they might get psychic powers and take over. I've seen the movie. So let's be nice to those kids. The others can fend for themselves.
Chapter 2.
Woke Hollywood can take care of the other ones.
Look. Chapter 2.
Some more news. Great special, woke Hollywood,
Yeah.
and how it's not a real thing. Yeah, look it up on YouTube. Yes, chapter 2, sorry.
So chapter 2 starts with him saying that people are born, they submit a form to God. It has choices for everything. Nationality, race, gender, all the details. And then the person is born off of those choices. I think there must have been a mistake with mine. And all I gotta say is, if this is the way that this works, then I want to redo on my form, because nobody fucking asked me
Here's
anything.
the thing. Yeah, I hit the ADHD and the manic depressant button, but I was a floating ethereal ball of gas at the time.
Yeah.
I did not know what those things meant. I also thought asthma was a good thing. Turned out it wasn't. I don't think you should be allowed to fill those forms out before you know what the words mean. That's all I'm saying.
Look, all I'm saying is, if I could pick my race, nationality, and all that stuff, I wanted purple eyes. Why do I have brown eyes and a lack of multicolored hair? I'm just saying.
I wanted a button on the side of my head that I could push and change my hair color and eye color at any time.
Yes, and maybe sleep that actually makes me feel rested.
Oh.
Nobody asked me these questions. But yeah.
There's a bunch of fine print and clauses. Like that sleep one. There's like a little asterisk, and if you look at the bottom, and void if you have children. And you're like, oh, damn. Gotta read that fine print, Cecilia. Get you every time.
Apparently.
But yeah, I'd never heard this idea of
I actually thought
before you're born, you get to fill out a checklist and to decide what you are.
I thought stuff like this when I was a kid, to be perfectly honest.
I do like it. I think it's very cute. I imagine people just scribbling away on their little forms.
It's almost like I had the idea when I was little that you got to decide when you got born. So, if you saw that, there's a little slot right here for, this time period or whatever, you could kind of jump into it and be... I didn't quite have the form idea down, but,
Where in the time stream you want to be.
Yeah. Yep. I thought... I had weird thoughts like this when I was little. It was funny. So, at any rate, we get to him in high school. And thank God the bullying seems like it tamped down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. He found a good group of friends that he can feel comfortable, well, sort of comfortable with.
Yep. And he has a friend that has a crush on a girl, Suda-san, and Ryu had told the girl that his friend liked him, and she told him he didn't have a chance in hell, basically.
Woo.
And then he fell in love. He's in love with that friend. They go to a hot spring together.
Yeah, a little time in the onsen.
And this boy that he has a crush on gets in the same bath with him. And this is just rough, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine in Japan where bathing together is just pretty normal. You'll bathe with siblings till you both are, 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And you'll go to bathhouses. There's a Netflix. Give me money. There's another Netflix it's an anime called Totoro Lives Alone. And it's about a young child who moves into an apartment complex, and the apartment complex kind of takes him under their wing because he doesn't have parents. Mm-hmm. And there's an older man who often takes him to an onsen for to a bathhouse, and that in Japan is not weird. It's not strange. It'd be looked upon very differently here in America. But the idea of going to onsens, when I was teaching in Japan, I had seen all of my male coworkers naked.
Yep.
Because we did in-kai drinking parties, and then we'd go to an onsen after and chill in the hot springs together.
And it's even in things like My Neighbor Totoro. There's a scene where the dad bathes with both of the children.
Yep.
And at first...
bathing is almost a spiritual experience in Japan.
Yeah.
In the hot springs, they used to believe that they contain spirits. And even now, it's not far from religious, the way every hot spring has a list of ailments that it'll help cure. There's hot springs you go to when you got to study for an exam and when your foot hurts, and unfortunately there's ones for when you have cancer, and there's hot springs for everything. It's all about how much sulfur is in it, and some of them they actually run electric eel currents through, so you get a little shock while I've gotten in a hot tub that actually gave me little shocks because they had electricity running through the water. And all these little combinations are supposed to do different things for you. So this scene of them being together and might read strangely to someone who's not familiar with Japanese culture or manga, but it is very normal there. And probably very hard on a gay boy who's just discovering his feelings.
Yep, because he gets a boner.
Yes, while they're very, very close, because they're in one of those barrel bathtubs. So it's fit for one, a little crowded for two.
And he's trying to hide it.
He's trying to squiggle around so it doesn't touch.
Yeah, unfortunately. And this other boy is just oblivious.
Oblivious.
So he imagines him finding out that he has an erection and how poorly he thinks he would handle it. But the kid gets out of the water and he is not discovered.
Does not notice. You do have that scene of, hey, I'm going to go try out the saunas. You want to come? And Ryou's like, in a minute.
You go ahead. I'll be there.
The old, I can't stand up because I have a boner. That brought back some horrible flashbacks. But just for the record, when you're that age, you can't control them. They just come out of nowhere.
Sometimes, well, he was sexually aroused, but...
Right, but I mean, sometimes it's just a cool breeze. You'll be standing at the blackboard writing an equation. You're not turned on by algebra. It just happens sometimes.
Hey, don't kink shame. You never know. Okay,
let me rephrase. I wasn't turned on by algebra. I hate math. That's not one of those weird hates where we eventually end up making out. Like, I hate math so much.
Alright, so after the sauna or whatever, they go on to have a little chat while they're walking. And... he gets teased by his friend about telling the girl that he liked her. Yeah. Which is just a PSA. As someone who got picked on a lot in school, don't have your friends tell people that you like them because you never believe it. And then you're always suspicious from that point forward. If you like someone, own up to the fact that you like them. Do not have other people convey those messages for you. It's suspicious and not to be trusted.
It's fair. But at that age, man... The amount of bravery that it takes to go approach someone you like.
Just as a
send your friend in there, or at least one of those little papers with the "Do you like me? Yes, no" boxes.
As a side note, if you don't feel like you're emotionally ready to handle the rejection that may occur, if you tell someone that you like them, you're probably not emotionally ready for a relationship either, and you should probably just.
Yeah, exactly. Turn off your hormones, which are raging like a hurricane, and use logic, you morons. Teenagers, why are they so crazy?
Anyway.
It's because their bodies are going through insane amount of changes, and estrogen, testosterone are running through them like 100 miles an hour?
Yeah,
Probably not. They're just not being logical.
They'll be fine. Just think it through. Anyway, Haas... gives him shit because he's like, Haas is basically saying he's never had a crush on anybody.
Yeah.
But the person that Ryu has a crush on is Haas.
Yeah.
And
awkward.
On page 50, he tells him, if you were a girl, I would go out with you, Nanasaki. Which is fucking cruel. And I know he doesn't know, and it's not his fault, but it still made me angry.
I have said this to friends of mine who I don't think any of them turned out to be in love with me, which I always find surprising that everyone is in love with me. But yeah, I've done the whole like oh, if you were only a lady, like I've said that is a common trope amongst close guys.
I know it's not his fault
because we can't actually express affection for each other because toxic masculinity told me I couldn't.
But it makes me so mad because Nanasaki is suffering all by himself here, and he wants Haas to like him.
Yeah,
and to hear,
and he's like, I almost do.
Yeah, to hear that, is cruel.
Yeah,
and it's not Haas's fault, but it's still cruel.
I also wrote down the question: do you have a crush? That Ryo is excluded from so much because of his sexual orientation. Like, obviously, he's excluded from entertainment, movies, manga, and stuff, but he can't even participate in the conversation of, do you have a crush? Which is the most teenager conversation that two people can have, and he can have no part of that world, because he can't answer honestly. Like, that is just one more thing that is denied him and makes him feel like a fucking alien. Because even just a common conversation that two people in middle school or high school would ask without a second thought and answer without a second thought, right. He is a million miles away from being able to be a part of that world. And, well, maybe once, like you say, it's just
this
sad.
book. You get there's a real rough patch right here in the middle when he's talking about his childhood. So Haas does get a girlfriend, and Nanasaki hates her
because Ryu has very good taste. All the guys he likes end up with very picking up some very hot ladies.
He's trying to convince Haas that his girlfriend's cheating on him, and he tells him eventually that he can't be friends with Haas anymore. Basically, this friendship is making him suffer. Yeah. But
he can't explain why.
Yeah.
And he's like consumed by, again, hormones, but also jealousy and like all of his inner demons. And so I assume this is made up. I don't know if it's ever turns out that she was cheating on him or not.
No, it's never addressed.
This is just something he says that
he's just trying to get Haas to break up with her.
Because he can't stand watching it.
Yeah. Which I imagine that would be hard.
There's nothing worse than being lonely and watching people who aren't. Like, that sucks. I've never been there. Everyone loves me again.
Of course. How could someone?
I've seen in movies that lonely people are sad. I'm assuming. Oh God, Cecilia!
Oh, it's okay.
Let's go back to the thing. I don't want to.
So he decides to go to college in Tokyo.
Yes,
that way he
move
can get
away
out.
from your problems. That is a fix. I'm telling people, change of scenery. Your problems will not follow you because they are an essential part of your inner being. Just move away. The problems leave, and your life is good from then on.
So, in a direct contradiction to what Reno just said,
what happened?
He does go to Tokyo, and on the one plus side, he finds out that there are other people like him who
big city like Tokyo. Whoa,
you good?
I sneezed at the end of that, and it sounded like I was just really excited about Tokyo. Yeah, but big city. Obviously, you expand the population, you're going to find more people like you, whatever like you means in this situation. Yeah. And in his, it means, hey, there's other gay people out there.
So, in this, he's so, like, this little picture right here is so cute. He's on his phone on page, 58, and he's just, scrolling through all this stuff, and he finds a person, and he meets up with them.
This is the old version of swipe left, swipe right.
Yeah, Tinder before Tinder. Days. Yeah. And they go back to his apartment, and he's struck by how, average this dude looks. He's just
he's older than Rio, little heavy set, kind of wears glasses, just a very nondescript looking fella.
Yeah, just very plain. My first thought was, did he get catfished? This whole interaction with this dude makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, Rio is very...
He's a baby gay.
He is. And he's also this guy looks quote unquote masculine. He doesn't... My gaydar didn't pick anything up on this guy.
As someone who is also in the LGBTQ community and has no gaydar, I feel you.
Yeah.
I have no concept of are you straight or not.
Well, I feel like I don't know. Gaydar seems problematic to me. The idea that you can look at someone and identify their sexuality.
How many stereotypes?
Yeah, it's how many and again that goes back to toxic masculinity in a lot of ways. Like a person can give off, and sexism. A person can give off feminine aspects, or what we view as feminine aspects, and coded. And not be gay.
Yep.
And someone can not give off any of them and be gay. And I don't know, gaydar might be something we need to throw on the trash heap of history.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Well, you don't have it, so of course you would.
Well, the thing is, one, it is problematic to assume everyone's straight until otherwise proven, in my opinion. Yeah. Personally, how much of that is even your business? Are you interested in dating this person? If you're not,
I feel like if you're not, you should turn your gaydar off. What are you even doing?
Yeah, well, but just if that person's sexuality isn't something that is going to pertain to you, why do you care in the first place? And what difference does it make? Now, granted, if you're planning on getting together with someone,
Yeah.
then yeah, are you sexually attracted to me becomes an important and pertinent question for the situation.
Or at the very least, could you be?
Yeah.
If
But
I get 50% less obnoxious, maybe. I could turn it on and off like a light switch. I can't. I'm sorry. This is who I am. Also, on page 58, they said, in 2019, 10% of people in Japan identified as LGBT in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
And I thought that was kind of a high number for a society that has decided to be so straight family-centric as Japan.
Yeah.
It made me happy. And I wonder what those numbers would be like if people could just say how they were. I think it would be higher.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think most people aren't, because sexuality is a spectrum. I don't think most people are 100, like we've said before,
Yeah.
I don't think most people are 100% straight or 100% gay.
Yeah.
I think, maybe you have leanings in one direction.
Yeah.
But as far as I am so what is that, super straight that conservatives are doing?
Super straight.
I don't think that's
oh
a real
my God,
thing.
They need a cape. They need to just start wearing a cape.
That would look really gay, though.
What? Superman wears a cape. The Phantom of the Opera. Are you going to tell me opera is gay? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, you answered that question for
fair
yourself.
enough.
Anyways, our creepy McCreeperson over here asks Ryo if he's ever had a boyfriend, if he's ever touched a dude.
Straight up grabs his hand.
And he makes Ryu touch him. This whole interaction struck me as kind of rapey and very coercive. I did not like it.
I mean, Ryo doesn't seem to be... He seems to have... Well, at the end, he seems to have been like, it was consensual, and I was a new... He even says something like, I was a newborn... Something about being kind of steered into it. I wish I could figure out where it was, but that night was my first time with a guy.
He's recording him.
Yeah, that part seems odd to me.
I met a gay guy and he brought me yakitori.
And then he says, "Lucky me."
But look at this face on page 60. Like, this is not this interaction.
He's got a smile, and then it closes on his eyes where it doesn't look like a smile. I think this shows that he was very... I don't think he's sure about this encounter.
It seems coercive.
Whether it was good or not.
It seems coercive to me.
It definitely had some coerciveness aspects to it.
On page 61, this is not a face of someone who is excited to be involved in this situation.
No.
And I think, like, he was... If this dude had been a decent man, he would have seen this face.
Yeah.
And he would have
Although
been
he does literally turn away from him.
Yeah, well...
He would have to steer his face back.
I feel like he was giving off enough signs that if this dude had been a decent dude, this would have been where this stopped.
Yeah. And
would have been more of a... what Ryu needed in this instance was not someone to record him having sex for the first time. But he needed someone...
That's the part where I'm just like, wow, just whipping a camera out there, huh?
What he needed was someone who would talk to him about what he was going through. And what he got was a creepy old man who coerced him into sex.
Yeah.
And this whole interaction made me very uncomfortable. I did not have a good time.
It made me a little uncomfortable too. But like I said, like Ryu, our narrator, he doesn't gloss over it, but he doesn't... I don't know. I feel like he is also confused by this. Like, I don't think he thinks it was... I definitely don't think he thinks it was a rape. I do think he wishes his first time had been different. I don't know, like, it's these last two shots that really confuse me. Because he gets the little smile and the lucky me, and then you cut in on the eyes, and they don't look happy.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I have very mixed feelings about that scene, and, yeah, I do not know. I don't want to put words in Ryu's mouth, but you're right, it seems a little... suspicious.
It's suspicious.
Yeah.
So it flashes back to this time he had like lunch with a spiritualist, or no, they went to a reading. He went to a spiritualist, and she asked if he liked men. So she looks in his past lives, and in all of his past lives, he was a French woman or a samurai, In all of his past lives, he died alone, which gives him a new fear. So thanks, lady, for all of the
Do you think it's a good business model to be an oracle of sadness who just gives bad news to people? Like, if you're reading fortunes, maybe throw something good in there so they want to come back. Like, I bet you Ryo never went back to this lady. Like, she's just full of bad news.
So,
like, hey, you're going to die alone. That'll be 800 yen, please.
I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I do today. I'll be just like that old man. I'll die a little bit every day while trying to soothe my loneliness in a tiny one-room apartment, loved by no one, simply dying alone.
Yeah.
So, he decides that he'll fall for a girl and he'll get married and have kids and a happy family. And he decides that he's not gay after this interaction with this guy. Which to me seems like the most damning evidence that this was not a good interaction.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, he looks at that man as his future.
Yeah.
So maybe some of this, him not condemning that man, is him not wanting to condemn himself. Like, he's like, oh, that might be me in 20 years. We know it isn't, thank God, but
thank God.
But he does. I think some of it is him being like, "Oh no,
is that what my future?
Is that my
future?
Like? Yeah, exactly."
So we cut to chapter 3, and he is living with Haas.
Yeah, a real confusion juxtaposition here because we open chapter 3 with him sleeping next to Haas, and we're like, "Oh, okay." How'd that going straight thing work out for you?
Look, he gets a phone call from Haas, and he's thinking to himself that he should probably forget about Haas. He needs to let it go, you know. And then Haas asks if he can move in, and he, on page 74, he agrees in like 2 seconds flat. And I wrote down, yeah, how's that forgetting and moving on thing doing for you there, buddy? You're sticking to that real.
I'm going to give you a ranking on going straight, and an A ranking on forgetting your past, and an A ranking on having healthy relationships. You are A's, all A's. For abysmal.
I thought Haas and I are destined to be together after all.
Fate. What a cruel mistress ye are.
Yeah. But he had forgotten all of the wrestling and how Haas seems to like to walk around naked, and he keeps having to remind himself that Haas is straight. And, like, there's a boner and some underwear.
It's called morning wood. It's a real thing.
Yeah. And he's like, I feel like a dog on the verge of starvation, staring at a plate of food, but being told to stay.
Man. Haas is not just a piece of meat, Ryo.
Poor Ryo.
Yeah, poor
He's
kid.
so in love. And Haas keeps making phone calls to his girlfriend. Ryo is not handling any of this well.
Long-distance relationship Haas is just at the dinner table every night doing every annoying trope you can do. He's doing the I love you doobie doobie on the phone, the you hang up first. No, you hang up first. Like every obnoxious long-distance relationship phone call trope is on display here. And Ryu's just trying to get his ramen down and is not loving it.
Nope. So he asks Haas if he can not make phone calls while they're in the room together, and Haas is like jealous because you don't have a girl of your own.
Haas.
I'm not. Look, again, it's not Haas's fault.
No,
but it's still just it makes me sad and angry.
It's also funny his name is Haas because you think of like the way Texas people are like, that's a big old Haas there. Like, he's got just that name, Haas.
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It might be Haas or something. I don't even know. Yeah,
Haas. But yeah, we're going to call him Haas.
But he
How
reflects,
you doing, Haas?
Ryu reflects that I was the one doing Haas's laundry and cooking for him, but I wasn't the one that he loved. Watching the little rom-com play out made me feel sick.
Ryu is getting a little close to this incel behavior of, I'm doing all the nice things. I'm the nice guy. Like, why is this person not sleeping with me yet?
He just wants to be seen.
He wants to be seen, and he wants love. He wants the comfort that comes with having someone you can be intimate with. And he is not going to get that from Haas.
Nope. So it eventually comes to a screaming match because he takes Haas's phone out of his hands and he says, you know, he needs to knock it off. It's annoying having to listen to him every night. And Haas is like, you have no idea how much my girlfriend misses me. You've never been in love before.
Oh,
and
again, Haas just accidentally breaking hearts with every word.
Ryo comes to the conclusion that he's tired of being in love with him. He's got to get the fuck out of there. He hated him.
Yeah. So he goes to stay with one of his lady friends.
Yep.
Because, man, he cannot... And this is where he confesses, yes? Is this where he comes out to her?
No, this is not. This
is where he almost comes out to her.
He seems to think about it, but she, of course, he hadn't told her about her feelings. She was trying to understand me, but that made me realize that there was no one who could understand what was happening with me. The isolation has got to be suffocating.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Got to be fucking...
There's definitely, like, one page previous to this, 85... It almost seems like she gets it. Like, there's a scene of them just quietly looking at each other after he said a bunch of mean things about Haas's girlfriends. Like, oh, she's a harlot. She's a mean lady, blah, blah, blah. And every time he does, this lady whose name, I don't remember.
I don't even know if they...
They don't say it there, at least.
They don't express it here, yeah.
But she's like... Well, what did she do? She seems nice. Like, every time he says something mean about her, she's like, well, what did he do to you? Mm-hmm. And there's finally a moment where he hasn't answered, and they're just looking at each other. And then she's like, I'll go get you a towel. And it almost seems like right there she's either understands or she's on the cusp of understanding why this is a problem.
Yeah.
But he does not confess there. Instead, he goes into the bathroom and cries into a towel and feels all by himself.
Half a year later, he wonders what he's doing with his life. Haas had moved out. Nothing seems to be working out for him. He wonders he wonders if he's kind of going to be lonely forever. Like, he's having a hard time. He wanted to fall in love with a woman, but he can't seem to do it. The whole scene is him on
the bed. He's actually got some little bit of a
5 o'clock shadow.
5 o'clock shadow. He obviously is not taking care of himself.
No. He's kind of depression spiraling.
Yeah.
Almost.
Now, he's a student in Tokyo at this point, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. Because the reason Haas showed up is because Haas was like, I haven't given up trying to make a go of it in Tokyo. Mm-hmm. Which a lot of people go to Tokyo trying to make a go of it, but it's very expensive, and eventually they can't find a job, or they can't afford school or whatever, and they have to leave. And he is just, man...
This is him kind of coming, because he was reflecting on the fact that he'd been in love with Haas, and he'd been in love with his friend in middle school, and he has to accept the fact that he is gay.
Yeah, and you get a lot of isolation shots of, like, a big open environment and him being very small in that environment, mm-hmm. which is just...
The art, again.
Comic 101 of how to make someone look alone is to put them in a very big environment and make them very small. And you really feel for him. You're right. The art, like Yoshi's got... In this, it's a lot about the way his body is contorted. There's one where he's just lying on the bed with his knees curled up to his chest and, like, face down into the covers and just yelling out, I guess I'm gay.
He has a hard time accepting himself, which is also really tragic, to see happen. So on page 92, he's out drinking with some of his girlfriends, mm-hmm. and this girl's like, he ran off with another girl without paying money back he owed me, and I wrote down, this woman has her priorities in check. Dude's gone, fine. He owed me money, though.
I mean, that's why we leave. Like, as a dude, I leave when I can't afford to pay my half of the rent. I sneak out in the night, and that solves the problem. For me, specifically. Yeah. So I'm with this guy. I understand. Sometimes you can't pay rent no more.
Sometimes you just gotta run while
the grass starts growing under your feet. You just gotta get moving.
So he's out drinking, and the girls are complaining about their relationship problems.
And to Ryo, this is kind of like a millionaire complaining about their steak being overdone in front of a homeless person.
Yeah.
Because he has not been able to get that kind of intimacy. Nothing even coming close to that kind of intimacy.
Yeah, and he's upset because he says at least Asami got to happily be with him for some time. She got that much. What is it like to have your love returned? To kiss the person you like, to be able to hold them, to share a life with them. He's never experienced any of that. And
between all of those intersections, you keep seeing in big black letters, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. So she's complaining, and he is trying to hold his tongue because obviously nothing good can be gained from yelling out, you think you got it bad? Because obviously when someone's hurting, you don't want to try and one-up them. Like,
Yeah,
that's not the
yeah.
name of the game. You comfort that person, and then maybe later talk about your problems. But this is a real problem in the real world, this fucking game of one-upmanship when someone's suffering.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I know what that's like because... And then you go into a 10-minute spiel about your suffering, which is way worse and more important than their suffering. Be there. Be in the moment. Listen to that person. Not to get all, like how to be a good friend on this podcast. We don't support being good friends, but if you're going to, that's how you would do it.
I don't... Well, not everyone... I know I have a tendency to do that thing where you say the same... but I'm trying to relate, not one up.
There is a very different energy level between like, hey, I went through something similar, like, I'm here for you if you need me, and, oh, you think that's bad? Like, those are very... I think that it is fine to try and relate to a person on a similar... As long as you aren't equating them. Like, if you're like, oh my god, my whole family was killed in a horrible car wreck, and I'm like, I know, my dog died a few months ago. Like, I'm right there with you.
We both experienced the same level of loss.
Which, let me say, we did. I love that dog. But I won't say that to you because you aren't in a place to understand how important my dog was to me. And this isn't really about that. Like, I can say something like, yeah, I've had people close to me die, but nothing like that. Like, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a different power dynamic there.
Decides,
and he's getting ready to do the wrong one.
He is. He, as Asami's complaining about all of her relationship woes, he's saying in his head, I don't feel sorry for her. She has a luxury that I don't. And then eventually that's what comes out, is I don't feel sorry for you at all. I'm sorry you got dumped. But from my point of view, you've got it easy. Like, and then it's, he can't stop.
Yeah, once the floodgates open.
Yeah, he just starts like, you get to go on dates, you get to be open with your feelings.
This is his come out of the closet.
Yeah, you get to kiss and have sex with the guy you liked, and then he admits to them that he was in love with Haas, and he always has, and he couldn't tell anyone. And he's like, I must look like an idiot. Is happiness even possible for me? I know your breakup must hurt, but that's a luxury. Quit whining about it. And they just kind of like...
Everyone's kind of quiet for a second. But let me say, Chapter 3, which we're in Chapter 3, I don't know if we said that yet. I only have one note for this whole chapter, and it's ladies stepping up.
Yeah.
Because at this point, the women could have gotten very upset.
Oh, yeah.
And justifiably so, because this came out of nowhere.
They don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, and even now that he said it, like, that came out of nowhere. And, again, like we were saying, he just won up this girl who's, letting her heart pour out about a heartbreak she's just gone through. Mm-hmm. But these women, I think there's 3 of them, they immediately...
No, there's 2. There's Asami, which I think is the girl who he went to stay at her house. And then there's another girl. There's 3 of them total. But it's him and 2 girls.
They immediately jump to, like, oh my god, that must be so hard. What can we do to help? Like...
She's crying for him
I
on
know.
page 98.
Now, is she the one who got her heart broken? Yeah, the one who had her heart broken immediately jumps on this empathy train with him, and
her first reaction was that must have been really hard.
This warmed my heart even more than the marriage. This part I was just like,
here's the thing.
Finally a support circle. He has needed this since
so much. Oh my god.
He's needed this since he was in kindergarten, and he's finally got people he can talk to.
I make so many notes later as the book progresses about how good his friends are. He has such a good community.
He really does.
And but yes, they react in I wrote down that she is much kinder than I would have been. I'm not sure. I like to imagine that I would have seen how much pain he was obviously in. Yeah. And been like as nice as she was, because she does. They both just start like comforting him. Yeah. Like he's crying and like they're like, of course, that would have been hard on anyone. Like they're just...
And for a man to cry in public in Japan, it is much more common for everyone to look away and pretend they don't see it and just wait for you to get your composure back. Like, if it's me and my boss and we're bowing to each other at work and my boss's toupee falls off his head, my job is to look away until he puts it back on and readjust it and pretend like nothing happened, because he has shamed himself and I shouldn't be a part of it. And for a man to cry in Japan, that is the mindset.
I like that reaction to awkward situations much better than anything we have here.
Yes. I mean, that's good, but in this situation,
it
would have been a toxic
situation,
reaction.
Yeah.
And it would have been the quote-unquote normal Japanese reaction. But because he is their friend and because these women immediately see, like, he needs them, they jump in.
Yeah.
And I love them for it.
Yeah, being with one you love without being able to tell them is too much to bear. And then, yeah, they immediately jump on, like, they're on his bandwagon. They're on his side. He says, back then, I thought no one would understand. I thought if I told them, they'd brush me off and hate me. But they reassured me. They understood why I was in pain. They were genuine, too. I finally knew how good it felt to be seen.
He walks out of this just meeting at a bar at night, like, with a whole new lease on life, which is good for him.
I was so, like, that was after all of the bad shit, like, it starts with that happy part, which is really good.
Yeah.
And then you go through his whole childhood and the bullying and all of the unrequited, one-sided love, and he feels so bad to exist. Mm-hmm. And then to break down in the bar with the girls and then have them be like, I love you and that must have been hard, was so reaffirming. Oh my God. I was so...
Yeah.
It was so hard to read so many parts of that. And then, yeah. So he decides that he's going to live out as a gay man. He is going to go...
And this is common in an LGBT community to have this back and forth. Like, you try and conform to society, then you realize you can't, then you try again, then you realize you can't. Like this, I'm gay, no, I'm straight. No, I'm gay, no, I'm straight. Like, I'm trans, no, I'm not. Like these battles that I, as a cis white man, don't have to have. Because society will let me do me.
Yeah.
Exhausting. It's just gotta be fucking, like, exhausting.
Because there's a desire... I think one of the things this thing makes very clear... is if you're someone who isn't in the LGBT community, one of the things this makes very clear is that it is incredibly isolating and difficult to come to terms with not fitting inside of society. Right. And it takes a lot of bravery and self-assurance in any matter to just live your life out like that. Yeah. Especially, like, granted, I think this is more, like, towards our time period, but especially like back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Christ.
Yeah, like this is in the 90s, early 2000s. Like,
to be out like that and to be like brave enough to live your life like that, and especially like we haven't got to it yet, but not knowing exactly how your family's going to react, not knowing how your friends are going to handle it. Like,
and again, straight white male talking here, but it seems like some of the quote-unquote peacocking that you see is that defense mechanism manifest of, like, I'm gonna go so fucking hard that you can't ignore me, and that, like,
well, and if
I can't hide who I am.
If I do all of this stuff out loud, and if I wear this stuff proudly, then it's almost a hope that you can't shame me for it.
Yeah, that's exactly... Thank you for saying that better than I could. That's exactly what where I was trying to get.
Well, I do think that's some of it. It is a lot. That is one way to handle it. If you assume, if you go into something, it can become unhealthy. But if you go into something with the notion of, if I'm as loud and as proud as possible, then hopefully you will see that you can't take it away from me.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So, he decides to be out as a gay man.
Heading into Chapter 4.
Yep. In Chapter 4, we have him meeting... There's a thing for your phone where you can go to different types of events. There are different gay communities online.
Like, let's all go be gay in the park. Let's all go be gay on the bikes. Let's all go be gay at a walk-in bar tour.
Yep. So he decides to go to the one for drinking party, hot guys only. And being lured in by hot men happens to all of us, babe. We get it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Kudos to him for having the confidence. Because if I saw hot guys only, I'd be like, am I? Well, I mean, I'm kinda. Am I hot enough? No, I don't. I would spend the whole time in front of the mirror trying to decide if I was hot enough to go to the hot guys only club.
Yep.
I'd be like, maybe if I wear these glasses. Oh, no, okay.
I would definitely,
let me change shirts.
I'd definitely go and scout out first, be like, I'm at least as hot as that guy.
Which, coincidentally, someone else does here. The person that Ryu eventually meets is someone who's scouting it out. Not for that reason, but because, to see if there's anybody worth finding.
His name is Takuma-kun, and so he comes in at the last minute. Takuma-kun is, he sits across from Ryu, and they spend most of the time flirting and talking and being kind of silly and cute.
Yeah.
So meet cute.
Yeah.
I love it.
We get the Cupid's arrow through the chest.
It's so adorable.
Quite literally, they show an arrow going into his chest.
And he sits on his lap.
Oh.
And they kind of... He admits on page 110 that he was watching the meetup from the distance. It's his first time going to an event like this.
And he was going to leave if no one showed up that
if he didn't see
was
anyone
interested
he was interested in.
Yeah.
But he saw Ryu and he's like, I had to come. They kiss and they're now in a little relationship.
They do a PDA, which is not big in Japan, the public display of affection. But although they are in kind of one of those karaoke booths that you and your friends sign up for. Aww. With a couch and singing and such.
So they have a little relationship and they're falling in love and it's really cute. But then you start to notice that Tayuka-kun is
right after they have sex for the first time. He's like, "Can I trust you?"
Yeah,
and it's in a very conspiratorial type way.
Yeah.
Almost like you expect him to either be really not trusting or getting ready to spout off a conspiracy. Like, can I trust you? Do you know they're putting things into the water? They're turning the freaking frogs gay!
But it turns out he's more of the I don't trust you kind of...
Yeah, definitely the creepy first one.
Than the conspiratorial. It would almost have been better.
And this sort of blindsided me because I'm an idiot, but I literally wrote down, so gay relationships are still relationships. Oh, because whenever you hear about gay relationships, no matter movies, TV shows, whatever, like, if they're the ones that you just glance off of in sitcoms or movies, like the gay friend, whatever, the problem is always that they are gay and trying to receive acceptance. But, like, duh, they also have all the problems a normal relationship has. So even if you can get over the stigma of trying to be a gay or any sort of LGBT relationship in a straight world, on top of that, you also have to deal with jealousy and leaving the toilet seat up and like all the other problems that a normal relationship, like I find normal relationships insurmountable. And you add on all the extra problems you get for not being a nuclear family type relationship, and I'm like, God damn, that's a road too wide for me. Like, that's insane.
It just struck you reading this that straight relationships.
I said I was an idiot. But it's true. Like, whenever I think about gay relationships, I'm always like, oh, it's got to be hard to be a gay relationship in a straight world. And then I'm like, oh yeah, but it's also hard to be in a relationship. Any relationship. Anywhere, anytime. That's why I've sworn them off.
They're not easy. They are work. It is
work. Like, I don't get enough of that at work.
So, we get to Takayuma comes home all upset because he thinks Ryu's cheating on him when all Ryu's doing is not answering the phone because he's watching movies. And he storms in ready to have a fight. And Ryu is just confused as fuck. Like, he was just sitting in the living room, ain't doing shit.
When you are trusting someone who is paranoid about trust, it's almost like speaking to an alien. Like, you can't get on the same page as them because it's something you're not familiar with. Like, I'm a generally trusting person. So when I meet people who are extremely paranoid and distrustful, probably with good reason, probably from very horrible upbringing, but for whatever reason, it's hard for me to get in that headspace so that I can understand where that's coming from. And Ryu has that deer in headlights look.
Yeah, he is so lost and confused.
Where is this coming from?
He says Takuma would take my train smart card and check my travel history. He wanted me to delete my gay friends from my contacts. He would hide near our place to see if I brought other guys home.
These are great warning signs, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get on page 119 that Takuma is explaining when he was younger, his parents got divorced, and his mother tells him, "Daddy's not coming home anymore because you wouldn't listen, because you weren't a good boy." He's afraid that if he loves someone, they will leave him again.
Thank you, parents, for passing your trauma onto your kids for the umpteenth thousandth time. If there's one thing every single comic we've read since day fucking one, it's that old line from that old poem. Your parents, they fuck you up, you know?
See, so I wrote down, fuck those parents. You literally should never lay your issues on your kids' feet like that. I don't care why they got divorced. It is immaterial at this point why they got divorced.
Well, it says in there why. Because he wouldn't listen.
That whole situation is so fucked.
It's so fucked.
But I'm also...
Kids already think it's their fault when parents get divorced. And for you to come and just be like, yeah, turns out in this one, you're right. It is your fault. Like,
I did write down that I'm hoping that maybe that this is like an internalized reaction to what happened. Because it almost seems cartoonishly evil to tell a child that you are the reason your father's not coming home anymore. Yeah. I'm really hoping that it's one of those like internalized reactions as opposed to like literally what happened.
Yeah. Or it might be one of those reading between the lines things where the mother says it but not like that, doesn't come out and say it, but through actions and movements he takes that upon himself.
Yes. I'm hoping that that's what happened because it seems
cartoonishly evil.
Evil to tell a child, Daddy's not coming home because you were bad.
But there are cartoonishly bad parents out there in the world.
There are.
You take someone who's hurting because their wife or husband left them, catch them on a real bad day when a whole lot of other shit's going wrong, would not be the first parent to take it out on a kid and to hurt a child because they are hurting. Whether it's physical violence or verbal abuse like this, like, she wouldn't be the first.
She wouldn't, but it is incredibly shitty to do.
I think we can agree with that.
Yeah. So I wrote down that Ryu, this poor boy, needs a break from red flags. Takuma, he does everything he can.
They end up making it 2 years, right?
They do make it 2 years, but I also, like, he was the only one who loved me. I wonder how much of that making it 2 years is desperation that I'll be alone if we don't.
When I was a kid, I was friends with the people in my neighborhood because those were the only people I could get to. Did not have a car. Your friends were the people in your neighborhood because those were the people you could get to. I think Ryu is under the impression that this is the best he can do. Which is, again, comes back to that low self-esteem that's been beat into him since kindergarten. Where he was stood in front of the class and told, hey,
still makes me mad.
This weird freak is normal. Okay, everyone?
Don't tell the weird freak he's a weird freak to his face.
That is exactly it, yeah. So, I think that's why the 2-year mark got reached.
So, yeah, and then all of his friends throw him into Tamayuki a party where they get fake married.
Yeah. Which is cute as fuck.
It is adorable. And
everyone's dressed so nice.
He's got good friends. This is one of the times I wrote down, thank God he's got good friends.
Yeah. Although in this case, they are like cementing him into this bad relationship, but I assume they do not know about the over-jealousy stuff. Yeah.
I'm assuming as well, because I doubt...
In those types of relationships, you usually keep that secret, because you know...
You know how it would go.
You know that your friends would be like, leave him.
Yeah, especially because they seem to genuinely love and care for him. If he was telling them, he goes through my contacts and he tracks my movements and he's always yelling at me, I don't doubt they would be like, hey, you need to leave him. Asami would hands down tell him, you need to get your shit and get out.
Beat him up herself.
Yes, I do not doubt that. But he had told them before that he wants to get married and he wants all his friends to be around and he wants...
just a one-off comment that they turned into an entire event
Yes.
And one of them even dresses like a nun to do the ceremony because they have no idea like what religious thing he would want, what kind of ceremony he would want, and they're like, "Why are you dressed like that?"
But
it's very cute.
His friends are amazing.
There's a group photo of them all happy and smiling, and despite how bad the relationship is, this is a great day for Ryu, and it reminds us that even sometimes you stay in bad relationships because
there are moments.
Yeah, because it's not all bad. You have those moments when you're like, God damn, this makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
And this is one of those moments.
It's the same thing that happens in abusive households. Like,
absolutely.
There are days where everything is really fun and awesome, and it almost makes it seem like you're imagining all the bad things.
Yeah, you downplay the bad because, you don't want to lose the good.
That we knew that we lived in a world that was hostile towards us. By wholeheartedly chasing my own happiness, I found out there may be a more tolerant society waiting on the wings for sexual minorities like us. That surprise wedding changed my life.
Yeah.
So, a year after that surprise wedding, Yuki had been getting drunk.
Yuki's been drinking a lot.
Takuma, I'm sorry. He'd been getting drunk and wetting the bed, and everyone at the wedding had only been Ryu's friends. But
Takuma had not come out to anyone.
Yeah. They've been together 3 years at this point and had a wedding, and Takuma still hadn't come out and told anyone.
Yeah.
So
he goes to the doctor for his wedding problem, and the doc's like, this might be psychosomatic. This might be in your head.
So
he knows exactly the moment that it started.
Yeah.
And it was when some of his friends called him gay.
Yep. He had been hanging out at the karaoke. Looks like he's doing karaoke with his friends.
We love karaoke. And he left his phone in there while he went to the bathroom or something.
And his friends had went through his messages.
Or they popped up on the message lock screen.
Yeah. It says when he comes back with drinks, they're like, "Oh, the homo's back." They commence to teasing him about Ryousuke's messages.
And what a great contrast to the support systems that these two men have.
Yes.
One has a actual support. Actually, the support system versus the empty gaping hole where a support system should be.
We have an example of good friends, and we have an example of people that are trash that you'd be better off without.
Yes.
So Ryo points out that if they were really his friends, they wouldn't have talked about him like that, and they wouldn't be mocking him and being shitty. And he's like, even if you lose your friends, you still have me. I'll have your back. But Takuma says he's going to try to be with a woman from now on, and that is how Ryu gets dumped.
And Ryu basically takes this all on himself. Like, This is my fault for sending him those texts, and very understanding, like, if I had been outed the way he was, I might react the way he reacted. It is so understanding that, again, because of his fucking support system, he is able to view this through the lens of, there but for the grace of God go I.
I actually wrote down poor Takuma and I wish the world were better.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the fact that this isn't a story where they try to villainize Takuma for handling things poorly.
Right.
The fact that Ryousuke internalized something
immediately comes to his defense.
And he internalized this situation as opposed to blaming the people who actually made Takuma unhappy. I also really hope that eventually Takuma ends up happy. It's incredibly heartbreaking to have to deny who you are and to be forced to live in a box that you don't fit into.
Yeah.
And it is an incredibly tragic situation that, it wasn't going to end well, but it shouldn't have happened the way that it did.
And there's an importance of dating people on the same part of your journey as you are. Because he sounds very much like Ryu did, 5 years earlier.
Yeah.
The like, you know what? I want to be normal. I'm going to try this straight thing. I'm going to see how that works out for me. And like, Ryu's already been there.
Yeah.
He can't go back there. And he has to either, which is why he decides, move on or wait for his partner to catch up and come back. And you have to, wherever you are on your journey, if your partner's not at that same place, if your partner's far enough back, then you have to wait for them to get where you are, because the mindset where he is now, Ryu couldn't just be like, hey, I've tried that. It doesn't work. Like that's a discovery that everyone has to make for themselves.
It is. And it is unfortunate that he doesn't have better friends.
Yeah.
Takuma deserves better friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now we move to our...
Chapter 5.
Our final chapter. We have 2 little side stories at the end, but our final chapter of the main story.
He tells his friends about their breakup, and they're very supportive. They're, you'll find someone else. Well, actually, he says he'll find someone else, and his friends are like, don't rush into anything. Take it slow. Take it slow. But he is alone again, and he's lonely, and some people weren't meant to be alone. Ryu was not meant to be alone. Also, he's been alone most of his life. Yeah. I imagine that he's tired of it. He's heartbroken. He goes...
But his friends are right. Like, after a big breakup like that, take some time. Take some time, he'll get right. And some of that will be you just sitting alone in a bathtub, which is what we see Ryu doing.
And he starts reflecting on whether or not Takuma was ever really happy with him. Like, they went to an amusement park, but they couldn't hold hands, and he wanted to stay so far apart. It takes him, 3 months to process the, trauma and heartbreak.
And it all kind of hits at once.
Yep.
Like, that happens. Like,
oh, yeah.
I remember when my mother passed away, I didn't really break down till months later. Like, it was a weird... And it was something very dumb like that. Like, this is just a memory of them at an amusement park and not being able to hold hands, which I assume Ryu's life has been filled with things like that.
Yeah.
But that's the one that just gut punched him and reminded him of all that he lost. All the missed opportunities, all the jealousy, all of it just hit him like a ton of bricks.
He starts doubting the fundamentals of the relationship. Was Takuma ever happy?
Yeah. Did I imagine those good times? Were they just good for me?
Much like the reverse can be true when you're having a happy moment.
Yeah.
When it all breaks apart, you can definitely...
Were there good times?
Was it anything happy?
Yeah.
Did I imagine all of that?
Making everything black and white and taking out the shades of gray is what makes our brains happy. Understanding, being able to just categorize things into a nice, this was good, this was bad category.
We want to do that.
It's so easy. It makes life so much simpler.
But it's not true.
You have never had a relationship in your life that went that way.
No.
The worst people you know have a good quality or two, and the best people you know have a bad quality or two.
Yep.
It's all fucking shade. It's turtles, shades of gray, all the way down.
It is 100%. I agree. I agree with you completely.
Oh, thank you. That's a podcast we can still quote.
Thank God. And on page 145, he's talking about his soulmate must be out there somewhere. It's so sweet that he believes in soulmates.
The hope springs eternal.
It's adorable. I love it so much. I'm a fucking sucker for soulmates shit. Anyways,
I'm a sucker soulmate for suckers.
But he has a whole bunch of first dates. He eventually, because of the he's running a wedding planning business for LGBTQ couples, and I love that for him. Oh. So he gets a message.
I saw that happening, and I was like, should I say something? And Cecilia's not going to knock it off.
Oops.
But, yes.
Anyways, he had several years where he's going out with a dude named Ryu. He went out with a dude named Ryousuke, which is really funny.
Ryu meet Ryu.
And that dude had messaged him about getting drinks. And, they'd went on a date and, had sex and...
So, there's a funny scene where they're, toasting and they've got 2 beers. And, there's a popular beer brand in Japan called Kirin. Kirin. And I guess for copyright reasons, they changed it to Kiran. They put an E at the end of it. Just so the beer police don't come after us.
But Ryousuke had just gotten a boyfriend, so getting contacted by it's like a game of cat and mouse. They meet up.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on this. Did he have a boyfriend when they slept together? Because they had this one night of passion. It seemed like, and then.
I think
or did he get a boyfriend right after that?
I think it's one of those things where they were dating multiple people.
Okay, yeah.
And
they were just playing the field.
They were just playing the field, and so they had slept together, and then they
they weren't official.
They weren't official or anything, and then the other Ryu got a boyfriend, and then our Ryu gets contacted by him again a couple years later or a couple months later.
Yeah.
After that, and then our Ryu has a boyfriend.
Yeah. Wow, wow, wow.
So
the two ships passing in the night metaphor is strong here.
Yeah. But they meet up at the bar. They meet up anyways because like they had some really intense chemistry the first time they went out, and they really seemed to enjoy each other's company. So they're meeting at the bar, and they're complaining about. He asks why he broke up with his boyfriend, and all the reasons for just little things that got on the other Ryu's nerves.
God.
And our Ryu's like, yes, I get that. My current boyfriend gets under my skin too. And he mentions that he'd like to get married, but they say marriage is all about patience. So I figured I need to put up with his weird habits. And the other Ryu's like, are you only with him to get married? Or do you want to get married because how you feel about him? And
our Ryu's like, huh? Like, I've never even thought about that.
They end up, like, they started dating. The two Ryus are now dating with each other, and, like, they do all these little, like, the other, Ryu-kun is so many things I'm not, and he's so many things that I want. And, like, he just does these little things, fixing up little things around the house. He supports his dreams. Like, he finally gets a healthy relationship, and it makes me so happy.
Very well for them. Yeah. Little opposites attract thing.
And then at the Tokyo Rainbow Pride, throwback, Ryu-kun proposed to him.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's so sweet. I love it so much.
Yes, it's very, very lovely.
Look, it made me happy. Like, this poor, like, Ryousuke went through so much shit. And proposing at Pride is very beautiful, and I loved it. I loved it for both of them.
Oh, yeah. Why don't you just propose in front of the Eiffel Tower? Cliche much.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
There was cliches for a fucking reason, okay?
Because they're lovely.
Yes.
I'm someone has to be the old grumpy Gus in this.
It's not going to be me
podcast.
this time.
No, it's got to be me. We'll wait for G.I. Joe, and then we can be the grumpy Gus.
Yes. Yeah. Well, look, I've got opinions about G.I. Joe.
You know, I've a little aside. I thought about this dynamic that we have, and there's they did an interview with Bill Murray, I don't know, a few years ago, and basically the way he would do things is he would do like a super mainstream movie. Mm-hmm. Like he was the voice of Garfield, for instance.
Wow.
And he appeared in like the Ghostbusters revamp, and like he would do movies like that so that he could do like the independent films that he wanted to do, like Royal Tenenbaums and Lost in Translation. And like, I do a mainstream movie so that I can do an artistic movie. Now eventually Wes Anderson got big enough that those were big mainstream movies, and he didn't have to do Garfield's voice anymore. But I kind of feel like this is how the podcast works. Is like, I'll pick something super mainstream and upfront, and then you'll pick something that's not on as many people's radar. And it's like, one supports the other. Like, I'm Bill Murray as the voice of Garfield, and you're Bill Murray doing his best work in Lost in Translation. And that is true.
Yay. Okay, so we get to side story number 1.
Yeah.
And they're talking about the Rainbow Pride. They have to break stuff down. Mm-hmm. And this is actually, you get a more in-depth idea of the proposal. I fucking love it. It's so cute. Like, he looks so nervous. It's got a little bit...
There's people in the audience literally yelling, "Hey, speak up, we can't hear you." Yeah. Like, this proposal got an audience.
But Ryu says he loves him and he wants to be with him forever, and asks him if he'll marry him.
And they're kind of on like I don't know if they're on a dais or a float, but yeah.
It looks like a float.
They're in Yoyogi Park, which is in Tokyo. It's kind of a big park for, they mentioned a few pages ahead. Yoyogi Park is like a huge, it's kind of like a bohemian park. There's a lot of like performers there all the time, and there's a bridge nearby where like all the cosplayers show up on the weekends, and a lot of stalls selling. Yeah. It's always got kind of a carnival-ish feel to it, so it sort of makes sense that that's where these things happen at.
So they go to register to get married, and the guy tells them to wait, and then tells them that they can't say, because same-sex marriage is not legal at this time, so they can't register to get married.
Which they knew. This was
knew.
just them going through the motions to kind of point out the injustice. And
the dude apologizes. Like, he says, but for now, we cannot accept this marriage registration. We're all incredibly sorry. Yeah. So, like, he's not hateful about it.
No,
like,
he really isn't.
He seems to want to be able to grant them the thing that they want.
Yeah.
But instead, they completed their partnership declaration certificate, and they went from being a couple to being a family. In our minds, we were each other's husbands. And there's a little note at the bottom that says, a document handled by this is just about what this is.
Yeah. This is another thing where they will bend over backwards to not say married.
Yeah.
Because a marriage is a sacred union, blah, 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 blah. So, like...
You can't see it, but I rolled my eyes.
We have our civil partnerships. We have our, whatever the really long descriptor was.
Partnership declaration certificate.
Jesus Christ. We have whatever the one was from the beginning, the Buddhist participation declaration ceremony. Like... We have to jump all that. We can't just say they got fucking married because they were in love. Like, we can't say that.
Nope.
Because that would offend the straights. So we have to have all these other...
That would offend the straights.
Yeah, so we have to have all these weird codes. The civil ceremony. Like, Jesus Christ. Just fucking get married for the love of God. Let them get married. Let them use the word.
We get all of these little montages of all of them. Like,
and this is the part that... Rio and Rio are famous for, is the first religiously recognized marriage ceremony of two gay men in Japan. Correct? Yep. Okay.
But looking back on my life up to this point, the hardest times I went through were when I most hated myself. So even if no one else understands you, you have to be your own ally.
Such a good line. Be
it
your
really
own ally.
Fucking is. Like, if there's nothing else from this story, fucking be your own ally.
Yeah. Chase
your happiness unapologetically. Like, completely unapologetically.
Yeah, if you're not hurting anybody else, then get your happy groove on.
I want you to believe that someday you can be happy. If you aren't sure whether that can be true, have faith in yourself. So this is like the end part.
Ryan also has a very cute corgi. There's a picture of him holding this very cute corgi. They've got a little doggy together.
They do.
And anyone with a dog can't be bad. And I know that's a stupid, wrong-headed way of thinking, but man, when I see people with dogs, I trust them implicitly.
We are very different people.
Yeah.
So this is the last chapter we get from Ryu's point of view. He's incredibly sweet, and I really appreciated that.
And there's a lot of like, for the people reading this.
Yeah.
I love you, stay strong, yada yada yada. Very nice.
Actually, that was a lie, because here we have him with his mother.
Is this side story 2 or side story 1? Because I think the part you were doing was still part of chapter 5.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think this is the end of chapter 5. It's weird because there's one of these pages in the middle, but it doesn't dictate the beginning of a new section.
Okay,
I think it was because
you might be right.
When it was originally produced, that was probably where an advertisement was or something, so they had to just put a weird page on to make the pages line up correctly. But yeah, we're now getting...
You're right. This is a side story.
Yeah, the book ends with 2 very cute little side stories, little short other things that happened in his life that I guess he didn't have anywhere else to put in. Yeah. So Ryu throws them in at the end.
So this is actually the last chapter from our Ryu's point of view. So he had come back home to visit his parents, and he wakes his mom up one time.
Decides it's time to come out to his parents.
Yes. His mom assumes that he got someone pregnant, which is never going to happen.
Nothing so easy to handle as that, Mom.
What I mean to say is I'm gay. So he tells he comes out to his mother, and he's talking about how lately he's been happier. I thought maybe she wouldn't care as much as I worried she would. She
does
not handle it well. Her first response is, and there's no cure for that. And
which is spoken purely out of ignorance. Like, that is we can send you to a camp, right? We can get this cleared up like it's a bad case of acne. Like, we can work on this. And it just shows a clear lack of understanding of what being gay means.
Yeah, his mother did not handle it well. Apparently, when he was little, his grandmother had said something to the extent of him being gay, and his mother replied with, "Why would you say something like that? I'm raising him to be a decent boy." Which is, if there's ever any question of where the internalized homophobia comes from, this is it. Little knocks like that.
Yeah.
Little tiny, like, chips like that, or...
And I like that Rio defends himself. He's like, I am decent.
This is, yeah, because she's wondering whose fault it is, and he's like, this isn't a fault of anyone, and I am decent. But she does not handle it well. She talks about how society won't accept him for being gay, and she can't accept him for being gay, and she doesn't want him to tell anyone else about this. And he says, up until now, I've lived ashamed, not being able to tell a single soul.
And she does have a little breakdown about almost she's sorry she feels that way. She says, I may never understand. I want to understand you. I don't know how many years it will take. So she's kind of, it's this weird, like, you know what, I'm going to wrestle with this and try and get okay with this, but no promises. And I'm like, that's almost worse than just saying I hate you. It's this weird, like, blank check of, hey, keep checking in with me. I might accept you as my son one day. Hey, hold out hope, okay?
It made me so mad.
It seemed needlessly cruel.
Mm-hmm. So, we end up... She tells him that she won't tell his father, and they don't talk for 7 years.
I love this part.
They're at a lawyer's office, so they can talk about guide to your first... Was this a wedding thing or a healthcare thing? I wasn't sure.
I think this was a healthcare thing.
But he tells him that... So Ryu calls his mother. Okay, this paper is for handling each other's health and finances. If something were to happen, my parents might be quick to sue. And
the other Ryu's like, well, call your parents then.
Yep.
Get this straightened out.
So, my mom was apparently surprised I met someone I felt so strongly for. Someone I'm making a future with. Maybe she'll finally understand. And apparently, she got over it, I guess. And she told his father, and his father apparently said, he likes men, how funny, ha ha ha. And then he laughed, and
then he said, come visit.
Yep, and then he said, come visit.
And there was this whole thing about, like, oh, we can't tell your father. Who knows how he'll react? And he just laughed and said, have him and his significant other come see us.
Yeah.
Which, unexpected. And I kind of like, because it was very, I mean, this is a true story, so... You don't expect them to follow the tropes, but the trope would be like, I have no son, but instead he's like laughs. So he's like, gay's weird, huh? Anyway, have him come see us. Yeah. And I was like, wow, he handled that better than the mom, and that is not the trope.
Nope. Well, there's a flashback of his old man like hitting him, talking about boys should have crew cuts, but
because it's again hair too long.
Yeah, but he's. It says, seeming as your father feels this way, and your partner seems to have a good head on his shoulders, if you two are thinking about the future, come visit us and bring your partner too.
Yeah.
Which, Ryu is much kinder than I am, because I'd want some fucking groveling, personally.
It just seemed like
there
should be more to it, but yeah.
He let it go very easily.
Yeah. I mean, 7 years without his parents, and...
I mean, maybe. I'm a petty bitch, though. We've established
that's fair.
So, for the 7 years since I came out, my mother worried about me. And now they've met Ryousuke. They've accepted that I'm gay and accepted him as part of our family.
Which, again, happy ending with the family?
It is. Yeah. It is nice.
There are so many members of the LGBT community that have completely... T2... so many members that have had to completely write off their family because their family has refused to accept them or has completely kicked them out, made it impossible for them to go back. So once again, another nice little happy ending where this family is able to reunite after the parents stop being dumb. Yeah.
We're laying the blame where the blame belongs.
Why not?
All right, and then we get side story 2, which is the other Ryu's point of view, and I actually really enjoyed this chapter.
Yeah, I would almost call this an epilogue.
It is. It is kind of
nice little last few pages epilogue from a different, well, not a different name, but a different point of view.
So he introduces himself as R from the site, because most people don't use their real names when they sign up for these things. But he brought him a gift, and Ryousuke asks him if he'll smoke for him, since he's quit smoking, but he really wants to smell it. If I smoke, I failed, but if I inhale someone else's smoke, that's okay.
Made that mistake of starting a New Year's resolution on New Year's. Although New Year's big in Japan, so...
Yeah, they end up, like, making out, and this is the...
cigarettes to sex. Instead of sex to cigarettes, which is the normal order of operations.
This is the... So, I didn't look at, like, who made this stuff first, but this is the first panel, like, because you actually get a little bit of sexy time, like, explicit, on page 196.
If anyone's looking.
If anyone's looking. What's that? You still don't see any dick. But, like, if
get
anyone's...
there, folks.
We will get there.
Yeah.
It's on my list.
Yeah, I know.
But... Eventually, but this panel on page 196 was the first time I'm like, oh, this is a BL artist. Because for the most part, all of this has been really PG. Like, it's not... for the most part, I wouldn't have any trouble letting my 11-year-old read it, except for the homophobia.
And we've stated this before, but BL, boy love.
Yes.
Just to be clear. Not Black Lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of acronyms that use the same letters.
I know, right? We don't have enough letters.
We do not.
Yeah.
But...
Japan's guys beat in that, too. Just between hiragana and katakana, they got, like, 80. They got plenty.
So, the other Ryousuke reflects on the fact that this was the best sex he'd ever had. And he had a really incredible time.
I will tell you this. When you haven't smoked cigarettes in a while, and you smoke one, like, after years of not, you can get... like a head rush from that. So having them blowing smoke in each other's mouths while making out, like, I'd try it.
They came in and out of each other's lives, but eventually they became a couple and they became husbands. And the other Ryousuke says he never thought a love between men could last a lifetime. He didn't have the same kind of struggles coming to terms with his sexuality as the Ryousuke that we followed for this story did. He loved his partners, but it wasn't a deep kind of love until he meets our Ryousuke, who wants to get married and have a family as a gay man. I think it's best to be with someone you truly love. You can think about marriage when you want to be with that person until you die. I'm sure you'll find someone like that. And he reflects that meeting Ryousuke changed him. People of the same gender wanting to get married isn't selfish. We should have that choice, just like many straight couples do. He's talking about how the other Ryousuke's faith made him feel like his dreams were a serious possibility, and he wants to make him happy forever. And they were talking. This happens like on an anniversary. So
on an anniversary, he's flashing back to a time before they were officially a couple, when they had cigarette sex, and even back then, our Ryu was opening his eyes through hope and optimism to what could be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Broadening his horizons, which what every good relationship should do.
I hope people like us can find a way to be even happier with the one we love. I hope we can all continue happily living our lives. So yeah, he brought flowers and
for their anniversary.
Was just being a sweet dude.
Yeah.
He said, so the afterword has Ryousuke Nanasaki talking about the BL artist Yoshi, who did a fantastic job turning this into a manga. It was based on my life as a gay man in Japan, including the challenges and love that entailed, as well as the deep-rooted homophobia I faced on both individual and societal levels. Ryousuke has read all of Yoshi's manga up to this point. The beautiful lines that make up the male characters' bodies and the expressions of the characters, especially anguish and sorrow, like, they are top-notch. Like, the artist is amazing. I will not... Up until now, I don't think the lived experiences of gay people and those who seek out the world of BL have lined up. That might be because both parties are seeking different things. But as someone who resides in both worlds, I feel that the that the team of myself, a gay man, and the BL artist Yoshi have yielded truly groundbreaking work. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. And then it gives a little bit of background on Ryousuke and Yoshi.
On the last page, it's just a big, huge one-page panel of them just sitting in the park with their puppy.
It's a really cute picture.
It's a very cute picture.
It's made especially for Reno because of the puppy.
Yeah, they put a cute doggy in there for me.
So.
Yes.
That is the end of that manga.
Yes,
and,
I really enjoyed it. Gave me so much to munch on. I'm full. I've had so much.
I was really impressed with the art and with the story, and it's a more contemporary work, but I thought it was a really good Pride story.
I do agree with you though, Cecilia, that I would like to see a volume 2 that's about the struggles of the movement.
Yes.
Of like Ryu his marriage business and his marches and his
that was
arguing
the only
arguing on the floors of whatever the Japanese version of Congress are. Like, that stuff would be fun.
Yeah.
And I would like to see, honestly, multiple more volumes of this, because anything Japanese I'm interested in. And this is a whole swath of Japanese culture that I know very little about.
Yeah. Well, one of the only complaint I had about this book was that I wish that it would have focused more on the actual activism work. I completely understand the importance of just the story.
Volume
of
1,
life.
you gotta establish your characters.
Yeah.
That's Volume 2 work.
But I do wish that there had been more about the actual activism and like the work that he had done. That being said, I thought it was an amazing little story.
Definitely. I'm super glad you got it and brought it to our attention. And I'm glad we are bringing it to everyone else's attention. That's what we're here for.
All right. Now, I had a really hard time coming up with a question for this.
Oh, no. Okay.
So, we're going to try a question.
Okay. I'm so scared right now. This is the biggest of our big questions.
Well, actually, it's probably not. But just going off of what he said on the last page about the different worlds that BL and a story like his have, the question is going to be, considering how little you know about BL, what do you think the biggest difference between BL and this story are?
Oh my god. Oh man. Knowing nothing.
Well, you've read Given, and it's
okay. I've done a little.
Yeah. You know very little, but you've read Given. Eventually we're going to get to like Sasaki and Miyano and things like that. But yeah, I'm gonna...
Is it as simple as not as many dicks?
No.
Okay.
Because like Sasaki and Miyano, there are no dicks in that one.
Okay, how is there a correct answer?
No, I just want your opinion.
Okay.
Because I know you know very little, and I have a little thing wrote down.
Okay. When it comes to boy love and this, with my lack of knowledge, if I was asked to put this in a genre, I probably would have just put it into the boy love genre. So the differences to me would be slight. I don't know enough about the boy love genre. Like, is it ever nonfiction? Because this is nonfiction. Does it ever deal heavily with fighting back against the anti-gay community and stereotypes? Because this does that. Or does boy love take place in a world where it's just perfectly acceptable and everyone's cool with it? Like, I don't feel like I know enough about the entire genre of boy love to differentiate this from that. To me, this feels like boy love to me. Just, you know, like one of those based on a true stories that you see on TV or in the movie theaters. Probably more truthful than a lot of those, but yeah, so for me, I would say I would be that Office meme where she's like, they're the same picture. So, I need you, this is what you're here for, Cecilia, tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, so I would, when I read the little back page panel, the first thing I said is I have to agree with his assessment that the people who who go to Boy Love to read Boy Love are not looking for realistic depictions of a same-sex relationship. And to me, that was the biggest difference in this particular book from most Boy Love, because there is that night, like, women read Boy Love as a way to separate themselves from the male gaze while enjoying pretty people kissing. Like, you get to have that same fun and excitement without the normal sexism that occurs in straight relationships.
Okay.
Whereas this story is more real and explores historical context almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of what a real life same-sex relationship would look like. This story has real struggles that real people can understand, as opposed to something like Semantic Error.
Actually, I want to change my answer. Or modify it a little. Remember how I was talking earlier about realizing that gay relationships are also relationships? Maybe it's that the Boy Love just deals with the relationship of the side of the gay relationship, whereas this actually deals with the gay side of the gay relationship, of like the things you have to deal with being a gay couple as opposed to being a straight couple. Whereas in the Boy Love, at least again from my limited experience, it's more, the problems are all more just relationship problems, like trust, miscommunication. Oh my god, the miscommunication. That make you want to just shoot yourself in the head. Again, because you're like, if you had a 2-minute conversation, this would be
my least favorite trope.
Yeah. So maybe that's one of the differences, that it's the relationship problems versus the gay relationship problems. Okay, I feel a little better about my answer now. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm here to enlighten. So, yeah, that was your question. Like I said, I had a hard time coming up with one.
It was fun to answer. Like, I like when I have to really crank the gears on it, which I did, because that was...
Yeah.
I love the big question, my favorite segment, even though it's often difficult and confusing.
So yeah, that was Until I Meet My Husband.
Yes.
And...
Excellent pick.
I think I'm going to start ending... My sign-off is going to be your own ally. I think that's what I'm going to adapt that and just...
We need that. Like on the stream, my sign-off is always watch out for snakes, which is also good advice. But I think be your own ally might be even better.
Be your own ally.
Be your own ally. Mwah. Chef's kiss. My heart. That was beautiful. We did beautiful work there.
Ally.
Everyone be your own ally. And, also, be our ally.
Like and share and subscribe.
Like, share,
and
follow
all
us
that.
on social media. Tell everyone you know who is interested in comics, at least, or interested in watching gay men kiss. Tell them about us.
Yes.
We'll be here.
And Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month. Also, check out Twitch streams on Sundays at 9. My other podcast, Judgmental Horror Junkies. All this is in the show notes, including...TikToks, Facebooks, Instagrams, all the social medias. Follow.
Just in case you're not sick of us yet.
5-star reviews, etc., etc. And again, be your own ally.
Yeah.
Laters.